Hi everyone, Dr. Payne here with Dr. Payne Effects, here with another episode of Good, Better, Best, the only pedal review show on YouTube that shows you how pedals sound through not one, not two, but 3 different amps at different price points, from beginner to intermediate and all the way up to those boutique amps that you hear on all the other pedal review shows. So, this week we are covering a really cool pedal. This is the Recovery Effects Shortwave. So let's check it out. Let's talk a little bit about the shortwave. To start off, we do have our 9-volt center negative at the top. It does have side-mounted jacks, boo, rather than top-mounted jacks, but they are very close to the top, so that's cool. Really like the design. Instead of a traditional LED, it has this sort of flash symbol in the middle, which lights up from behind by the LED when it's activated. They're also individually numbered, hand-wired in Seattle, Washington. So there are 4 main controls here. The first one that you should know about is this bottom toggle switch, which toggles between what they call Type A and Type B. Now, it's really hard to describe the differences between Type A and Type B, so you'll kind of have to hear it in the demo, albeit to say they are 2 different ways of utterly destroying, desaturating, and kind of vintageizing, as I will coin, your guitar signal. There are 3 knobs. The center one, which is the exposure knob, controls how much exposure your signal has to either the Type A or Type B. Now, there is no pure clean signal through this. The only way to get that is to turn it off. But you can get fairly close to clean, I found, if you are on Type B, with exposure, focus, and velocity all the way down. It just sounds a little bit off, almost like it's coming through a radio that just can't quite handle the signal. So finally, there are 2 other knobs. You have a velocity knob and a focus knob. And these 2 are heavily dependent on one another. The focus knob controls the tone of the tone that comes through with the velocity knob. It's almost a synth-like tone, except it's only comes when you're playing guitar. So now that we've kind of gone over the controls, let's plug it into our 3 amps and hear how it sounds. All right, so here we go with the good amp, our Vox Mini Super Beetle. Here's the clean sound. And here it is with the pedal on. I've got velocity set and exposure all set to as low as they can go. So here is what it sounds like. And this is the Type A sounds. Just completely destroys the guitar tone. Sounds like you're sending secret messages through a wire recorder. Now we're going to turn up the exposure about halfway. Starting to hear the guitar come through a little bit more. It's kind of like you're listening to the guitar play through an antique radio from the 1930s, 1940s. And with exposure all the way up. I don't use the velocity control very much because it gets really crazy really fast. But I'm going to put exposure on about half. And then increase the velocity. So here it is again at 0. Let me turn it up just a little bit. So it's a little hard to hear, but you can kind of hear some oscillation in the back there, and that's what that velocity is controlling on this sound. The velocity becomes much more important when you go to type B. And finally, our focus. And as you can see, our focus and our velocity are intimately entwined with one another, really dynamic. So in this mode, focus is almost closer to a tone control, whereas velocity controls this sort of weird oscillation. You can turn it all the way up. And just get a distorted mess. All right, let's switch over to type B. There isn't as much of a difference between type A and type B. I feel like type B is just more pronounced overall than type A. So here's what that sounds like. Everything turned all the way down. So these similar sort of broken radio tones. Not too bad. I feel like the clean signal comes through a little bit more here too. So overall, a really cool modulation pedal. It sounds pretty good through our Vox. So let's hear it with some fuzz. Helping us out today is our Space Man Gemini fuzz, which is a blendable germanium and silicon fuzz. So really cool. Really cool. If you want to vintage up your tone, this is an awesome pedal for it. So really, really neat. All right, let's try it on our better amp, the Supro. All right, here's our clean sound. So very similar sound at the low end of this, although maybe a bit more clarity somehow. Oh, sounds so cool. It really reacts well to the natural breakup of the Supro. Something about the sort of vintage tones of the amp and the vintage tones coming through this thing just pair really, really well. All right, and with the fuzz. All right, let's try our final amp, our best amp. So now we are playing through our best amp, our Port City Pearl. Here's the clean sound. And here it is with a shortwave. And there we go. I actually think the brightness of this amp is kind of helping the signal sound even more kind of analog-y. Almost comes through sounding completely clean this way. Yeah, you can see it cuts a lot of bass. Now this one comes through almost completely clean with everything turned down on type 2, which is almost sounds a bit like a ring modulator. Stay tuned for our final thoughts and to hear about what pedal we are going to be covering next week. Okay, so let's talk final thoughts. The Shortwave from Recovery Effects, a very well-built pedal that does all kinds of things. Now, like a lot of pedals of this sort of weirding variety, there are definitely some settings on here that I would call probably unusable. So for example, with the exposure, velocity, and focus all the way down in type A where you get that sound, unless that's a particular sound you're going for, it's not a particularly great setting. How I often use it is being in type A with exposure all the way open and a tiny bit of the velocity up, so something like this. And what that really does is it shapes my tone and kind of gives it this vintagey feel, which honestly has been a real big part of my sound. So really, I owe a lot of my signature sound to this pedal. So if you like vintage sounding, weird wire recording, spy stuff, check out the Recovery Devices Shortwave. The builders are really, really cool. They can make the case in whatever, in quite a few different colors, including black and red. So yeah, check them out. They've got some other cool pedals. I'm going to be doing a mini review of their Bad Comrade later in the week, so stay tuned to check that out. Now for our pedal next week, drum roll, it is the Pinebox Customs Crooked Teeth. Now, this is unlike any pedal that we've looked at so far on Good, Better, Best. And the reason is because it is a stereo pedal and a tremolo pedal and has tap tempo. So there's going to be a lot to go over in that video. Really, really cool. Oh, did I mention it also has a fuzz circuit? Fuzz circuit, 2 dueling tremolos that can be run either in mono or stereo. So be there next week to check it out. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on our mini reviews or our Good, Better, Best coming out every Monday at 9 a.m. Until next time, this has been Dr. Payne with Dr. Payne Effects. What am I doing with my arms? Until next time, this has been Dr. Payne with Dr. Payne Effects. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again.